There were a lot of different ways I could go with that Betta tank. I could leave it as a Betta Duplex and add another Betta to it, or I could do what I'm gonna do, which is to actually turn it from a duplex into a Betta penthouse and give that single Betta a 29 gallon aquarium. My first stop is a pet supermarket behind me here, where I'm going to pick up a little toy that some of you have recommended for the Betta. Let's go inside and pick it up. You never know what you're going to see when you go into a pet supermarket, and today was no exception. Look at this little crab. Really cute. They had a barb, a round banded barb, and the only reason I didn't pick some up is because I don't want a fish that might be nippy, and barbs of course are a little notorious for being nippy. But take a look at this barb. Love the markings on his body. Reminds me of a little tiger shark. I ended up liking some of the plants that I saw. I picked up a couple bunches of these, and you'll see how I incorporate them into the project. And also this plant here, which he called a type of floating lily. Very cool colors. Cobalt was showing some shelf space here in the food section. I remember a few years ago, they were one of the first ones to jump onto that probiotic food bandwagon. They even had a rope fish, and the price for this rope fish wasn't that bad. $25% off on silver dollars. I was really tempted to add a few more to my collection. These guys look pretty good. I've got about 5 of them or 6 of them, I think, in the 210 gallon. The more the better when it comes to silver dollars. They have a pretty nice selection of items here at the supermarket. Pretty much anything you'd need. It's just like a mile from my house. Very convenient. Nice selection of tanks. Nothing enormous, but some of the smaller tanks. A little section dedicated exclusively to Betta fish. Even had a few Bettas and cups. But this is what I came for, the floating Betta log that several of you have suggested. Okay, I got what I was looking for. Let's go home and get this project underway. A big part of the project are some items that came in from the Aquarium Co-op. Big shout out to Zenzo and Corey and the team up there. They've been backing me up a lot over the last year. And in this box, we have some items related to this project and related to other projects, but here are some nano sponge filters and some of what they call the small size sponge filters that I'll be using in this project. Also some of their airline, which I really love. Doesn't really show algae, being dark and easy to work with, very supple, easy to cut. Some air stones. These are filtered air stones, very cool, from a company called Zeiss. Dual outlet air pump, and this has a battery backup, so if there's a power outage like we get here in Nashville from time to time, it'll run for about 48 hours. There's also some food in here for my picky green tear, and some ParaCleanse for another project that I'm working on, which maybe you know about, has to do with the hole in the head disease in that 90 gallon, and of course one of their very cool stickers. The first step was to tear apart the tank, take the lid off of it, take the snaps that hold the center divider in place. This is a center divider that is 4 Aquarium tanks from a company called Life with Pets. Very cool dividers. They make them for $29, I think for $55, for $75, for several size aquariums, but they have to be Aquarium. But they work perfectly. They adjust both at the top, but also on the sides. They can expand out a little bit. You just push them into the substrate and attach the clips on the top, and you're good to go. So this opened up the aquarium for the Betta and the Pleco on the left side, and the Coolie Loaches on the right, and the Pleco that lives over there as well. Naturally, there was a stripe of algae that I couldn't get to with that divider in place. The Coolie Loaches were losing their mind. They didn't know what was going on. But the Betta immediately went over to the right side to explore the part of the tank that he had never been in. Decided to give the entire front panel a cleaning, but that middle section that had never really been cleaned for as long as I've had that panel up there, it was pretty caked on, pretty solid. So I had to bring out the heavy equipment, and this is a glass cleaner that I picked up, I think from Aqua Cave, and it has both a rubber scraper but also a blade that pops out. And for algae that is really stuck on there, that's gotten a little hard or hard to remove, this just peels it right off. Highly recommended if you're trying to clean up a tank. Haven't had it scratch. I certainly wouldn't use it on acrylic or anywhere near the silicone, but it does a great job. You can see the Betta keeps exploring that whole new part of the tank. The next step was to remove the artificial plants. They did their job. They gave the Betta something to play in and rest on. But part of my objective in this project was to convert the tank to live plants. Not just because they look better, but also because they do they do some of the work. They add oxygen, they consume ammonia and nitrate, and when you can have plants, when you have fish that are plant compatible, you definitely want to put some plants in there. These caves are a great, I got these from Underwater Galleries, and they're just a great place for the Pleco and the Loaches and the Betta to get in and chill out sometimes. So I like having these caves in there. Little piece of driftwood with some anubias stuck to it. Some anubias that actually is doing really well. Another little piece of driftwood that I actually found here locally at a local lake, along with that very enormous piece that you see in the 210 gallon. I have one of those 100-watt Aquarium Co-op heaters. Some of the plastic plants had broken off and gotten entangled in the water sprite. I then proceeded to pull out the Shisei, these Shisei filters. They did their job. They were okay, but it was a little frustrating that I could never really get them to stay in place. They'd stay in place maybe for an hour, and so I hope Shisei is converting these filters like they did with their other line of internal filters. I hope that they're converting them to a magnet as opposed to suction cups, because these suction cups were pretty much, you can just a pretty well built little filter, but the suction cups are pretty worthless. The Micron, Shisei Micron, I'll keep them around. They'll be good in a pinch. Now it's time to unbag and rinse off the items I had picked up at the pet supermarket. Whenever I add anything to the tank, of course, as I'm sure you do as well, I always rinse it off. Maybe check it for some hitchhiker snails, even though I don't really care that much about snails. That's a very pretty plant. I love the different shades of brown and red. This plant looked a lot bigger at the store and in the bag. You'll see what I mean when I put it in the aquarium. But I think it will get a little taller over time and maybe start to spread out a bit. And I think I'll work with the Aquarium Co-op and get some additional plants for that 29 gallon. But for right now, this is just a good start. The Betta is going to be missing those the plastic plants with the broad leaves that he could rest on sometimes, but that's why I picked up the log, that little floating Zoomed Betta log. That's actually designed and intended to give the Betta a place to chill and float and hang out. I've had several of you rave about how much your Betta likes these, so I broke down and got one. We'll pop that in the 29 gallon. I trust you, Zoomed, but I'm still going to rinse anything you sell me. The Mopani wood that's in the 90 gallon, that's all a Zoomed product. It was releasing tannins for about 6 weeks. But this, of course, is artificial, so it's not going to release any tannins. Now came scaping time. And of course, what I end up doing here may or may not be the way I leave it. But I wasn't really unhappy with the final look. I put down some of these root tabs from the Aquarium Co-op. Just put one to each side of the plants that are going into the substrate. This is not a plant specific substrate per se. You can see the tabs here. But the substrate, this tank has been running for quite some time, so I'm sure that there are a lot of nutrients down there that these plants will tap into, but giving them a few root tabs just to help them get established and get over the shock of being moved. Maybe it'll prevent getting some of that melt back that you get, plants that melt a little bit when you move them into a new aquarium. I noticed I didn't get too much of that with the plants that I put into the 55 gallon. The crypts and the swords that I picked up from the Aquarium Co-op, and I had some tabs going on in there. My little floating plant. Hope he makes it. He's very pretty. And I put a couple squirts of this. Can't hurt. And then it was time to put together the sponge filters. As I mentioned, this is the small sponge filter from the Aquarium Co-op. They do have a nano version, which I have in my 20 gallon live bearer tank. These filters are very easy to work with. I had cut the line, the air line, and one will go in the back corner, one in each back corner, and then the pump will rest on top of the aquarium, and of course that will eliminate the possibility of a back siphon. You can buy little one-way valves if you have to keep your pumps below the water line. But if they're on top of the aquarium, above the water line, you don't have to worry about that back siphon. Both of these sponges had been, of course, rinsed off. And we're now in place. And you've got a standard USB and a C connection. The C connector goes into the pump, and of course is providing power, but it's also charging the lithium batteries. The pump arrived with charge already, and I hadn't even plugged it in yet, and it was already pumping air. And there's the little log I'll be dropping in. Give the Betta a place to chill out. Okay, Dumbo, hope you appreciate your new digs from Duplex to Penthouse for sure. Let's put it all back together and show you how it looks as a finished project. I put my air pump on a piece of foam, and that absorbs any vibration. I hate it when pumps hum, especially if they touch something and they rattle. So all of my air pumps are on some foam. I threw a little bit of Fritz Complete in there just because I messed around with so much stuff. Doesn't hurt, just to make sure I don't get any kind of an ammonia spike. And here it is. I think he's digging it, exploring around. Yeah, there are some almond leaves in there that I've picked up from the Aquarium Co-op. And again, just kind of helps create some of the tannins and things that Betta enjoy in their tanks. It's funny to me that he's spending most of his time on the right side, exploring the new territory. Really is a pretty fish. Was kind of pale when I first picked him up, but of course he was living in a cup. Really blossomed after I got him home. Got some deep pinks, some reds in the body, some blue. I knew he had potential when I first saw him. So there you have it, from Betta Duplex to Penthouse, and I think he's liking it. Certainly share your comments, tips, suggestions below. We all learn from each other. Big shout out to the Aquarium Co-op for all their help on this project. The sponge filters, the tubing, the dual battery backup pump. They've really helped a lot on this project. Thank you to my Patreon members for their monthly support. That really helps in buying things like the plants and other things that I picked up for this project. Big shout out to my Garage Gang, my Patreon monthly supporters. Details on joining the Garage Gang, the Patreon program, are under the video, and I'll include a link above with details on the Patreon program. If you'd like to help the channel further, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, hit that notification bell, let YouTube know something good's going on, and I hope to see you on Saturday for the Cichlids and Coffee live stream. That's every Saturday at 11 a.m., 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. Great group of fish keepers get together for an hour of discussion on everything from filters to food to fish, substrates, lighting, you name it. So that's it, my friends. I'll see you again soon. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.